Blink Charging getting crushed today. Shares are still up nearly 40% in the last month. Now, Cowen says the valuation stretched. The firm downgrades that stock to market perform. We've made it our call of the day, and we bring in John Najarian because he's making moves in Blink. Dr. J, welcome.
Thank you, Scott.
You cut your losses, huh?
Well, they were gains. Like you said, it's still up over 40%, and I just kept rolling to the upside. But today versus Friday, yeah, it was a loss. What I did, Scott, was I'm not saying that they're ringing a bell as far as saying, oh, it's over for charging. I don't think it is going to be over, not with 500,000 charging stations coming our way over the next 5 years. But I do think that it was pretty clear that we should be taking profits today. People listening to that Cowen report obviously sold Blink. It put a cap on the upside of ChargePoint and Volterra and EVgo. So I had 3 of those 4 stocks through options, and I closed all of them out today. The one, like you say, Blink was closed at a loss from Friday's trade till today. It was a loss, but it was a strong month for performance in that sector.
What do you do? And I'm looking at it as we speak. I'm pulling it up here. A RIVIAN is down, wow, 12.5%, almost 13% today. You own RIVIAN. So how do you factor that into what you just said with the others?
Well, I own RIVIAN calls now. As you recall last week when I was on with you, I said I traded out of the stock at 160, 105 to 160. You don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. And then I put on a spread, the 160, 190 spread, Scott. I have since now rolled that down to the 120, 150 spread because I still like the play, but I wanted to take some of that off. And in fact, one of the bits of unusual activity today was NIO. I'm not doing this for unusual right now, but I'm citing it because NIO, this week, November 42 calls, right with the stock at about 42. They bought 16,000 of those. So as much as people were still taking profits, I guess, in RIVIAN, they weren't doing that in NIO. Instead, they're positioning for upside in NIO.
All right. So I also understand Farmer Jim, and I want to bring Jim in because I want to have a little bit of a debate on this. Jim, you bought RIVIAN puts in your personal account, brand new. So yeah, give me the reasoning behind that, and then if we need to have a little debate on whether these stocks have all gotten so far ahead of themselves, we can do that.
Yeah, so Scott, I bought 120 strike puts on Friday in RIVIAN. They expire this coming Friday. So right now it's working out fine. I do want to stress this is just for me personally. I don't buy options for clients because sometimes these things can go to zero. But I said to you on the show a week and a half ago that this is a case of the emperor is not wearing any clothes. For this stock to have a market cap greater than GM is nonsensical. Now, I'm not just coming at John. You know, I don't think he'll be able to find me even if he does want to try to take me out. But I think John will also agree that this is kind of a ridiculous valuation, and where we may differ, in fact, I know we differ, is on the timing of this. This is exactly why I only do this in my personal account, is because I have to be right in the next 3 days. Right now I am right, and I'll have to close it out in the next 3 days. But really, this is a stock that should be well below 100 on a market valuation basis. And maybe that happens this week, or maybe it happens next year. I don't know. But I told you this is the emperor wearing no clothes. If you look at the entire market cap of all the EV stocks and the traditional OEM manufacturers, it's as if the world thinks there's going to be 10 times as many cars on the road next year in total than there are today. That's just preposterous, all right? The emperor is wearing no clothes. This stock does not deserve to be a $100 stock. Should be half of where it is right now. So I've made my stand. Okay. And Doc knows I love him. He knows I love him.
All right, we don't need all that. Doc, I hear you. I hear you. Niceties aside, we appreciate it. We know you're a nice guy. Dr. J.
Yeah, he is.
Dr. J.
Jim is an analytical guy, and as I should always do, thank you for your service, Jim, because I truly do appreciate what you've done in service of this country. As far as this trade, he could be absolutely right, Scott. But the unfair comparison, I think, is putting it against Ford or GM or any legacy car manufacturer. Because just like Tesla, You're talking about a brand new, I mean, I'm not saying, oh, this changed everything, but it changed several really big things. Number one, when Tesla did it, they did it without a dealer network. Number two, they didn't have the pension issues that the other car manufacturers around the world have. And they came up with a new category, more or less. When Tesla came up with the EV, they were the first really big mover in that space. Now, Rivian is not the first. They've got a good-looking truck that looks a lot like the Lightning. I think the Lightnings will be delivered before the Rivian trucks. But nonetheless, I think that when you look at the lack of that dealer network that takes the bulk of the profit out of that vehicle, Scott, as well as the pension issue that puts more expense on top of the vehicles that GM, Ford, Volkswagen, for that matter, make, I think you get the idea that this is not a direct or a fair comparison to say, well, versus GM's valuation or versus Ford's valuation. Because if they didn't have those things, the dealer network and the pensions, they'd be a lot higher, too,
right.
in valuation.
So I appreciate that. And I want to get one more quick comment. It's from you, Joe, because what I find interesting as we're having this conversation is you're looking at Ford, thinking about buying it today. What puts you over the edge and says, OK, I'm going to make that move? The stock's already moved a lot. It's barely off of its 52-week high, and it's up like better than 50% in just a few months. So why are you first looking at it now, number one? And number two, what's going to get you to buy it today relative to what I just said about the run that it's already had?
Well, I've had moments where I've been in either GM or Ford. I'll acknowledge that I probably have not held on to either of them in the way that you should be in this environment. I like the resiliency of Ford over the last several weeks as we are seeing a lot of money that is going into this EV theme. I suspect, Scott, that one of the things that's unfolding here is that capital that was in Tesla and moved out of Tesla went into the EV names, and it created a great trade for the EV names. But I think now the overall exposure that the viewer wants to have towards the theme of EVs is in the more traditional sense. I disagree with John. I think that takes you right towards GM, Ford, Tesla, and even some of the foreign automakers. And for me, the resiliency of Ford in the last couple of weeks is one of the reasons why I'm interested in purchasing it, and we'll do so over the coming days.
Okay, I appreciate it.